Hi, welcome back to another screencast for LSSL 5360 for the fall 2013 semester. This is Dr. Lassane again, and I thought that today we would take a look at the syllabus in this screencast. So once again, here I am at Live Binders, and I'm going to click on the Live Binder for 5360. Bearing in mind that I've already logged in here and you don't need to worry too much about that. I want to take you through today just the syllabus in this screencast. I will have other screencasts that will talk in a little bit more detail about some of the assignments, for example, how to write an annotation, and some more details about the textbook assignment and the blogging assignment as well. So stay tuned for those. I will be adding them to the particular tab for screencasts under Before Class Begins right here. But for today, let's go ahead and click on the file for the syllabus. I do encourage you not only to open the file, but if you have not done so already, to save this particular file to your desktop or to a file on your computer so that you have the opportunity to refer to it instead of always having to go back to Live Binder to take a look at it. Bear in mind it will also be up at Blackboard for the entire 15 weeks of the class. So here's the syllabus. It's not my intent to go through everything with you, but I do want to point out some really important features that are here in the syllabus to kind of get you started again on class. You find all of my contact information, first of all, right here. My office, which is in AB4, that's Academic Building 4. We're on the 4th floor. I'm in room 423. You have a mailing address. You have the office phone number, the office fax number, and my office phone number, which will go to voicemail when I'm not there. If you do leave me a voicemail, it pops up in my email immediately, so I can tell that I've got a voicemail, I can listen to it, and then respond accordingly. So don't worry about leaving a voicemail. If you know I'm not in the office, just go ahead and do so. I've also given you 2 email addresses for me here. They're both my Sam Houston address, just a little bit different. lis_tsl@shsu.edu, and then Dr. L@shsu.edu. Both of those are emails that I check at least once a day, more likely about 4 or 5 times a day. So if you get in touch with me and you don't get a response within 3 or 4 hours, you might send me a second email unless you know that I'm not going to be available. I try to send out notices through Blackboard when I'm going to be out of town and have limited access to email. So understand if I'm not limited in some way because I'm on a plane or in another country, I will try to get back to you as soon as I can. My office hours generally will be Tuesdays between the hours of 8 and 2. You can also arrange if you want to come to the office any other time by appointment. I'm not going to read through the next couple pieces of the syllabus because basically you can do that in your spare time, the descriptions, things like that. But I do want to talk a little bit about the textbook for the course and the required reading, the books that we will all read in common. The textbook for the course is written by Sylvia Vardell. She's a professor of children's literature at Texas Women's University, and her textbook is called Children's Literature in Action, A Librarian's Guide. Unfortunately, it's not available in a Kindle or online edition, but we do have copies in the department, and we will sell them to you for $30, checks payable to LSSA, that's the Library Science Student Association account. If you email me, let me know that you want to purchase a copy of the book, and then stick a check for $30 in an envelope and mail it to me at the address on the syllabus, along with an address to which we should mail you the book. We will take care of that. If you're going to take care of the book on your own, please understand that it takes a while for textbooks to arrive, whether you order them from the campus bookstore or from the publisher itself or from an online bookstore. Sometimes it takes 3 to 4 weeks. You want to make sure that you order your textbook early because your first sets of assignments need the book. You need to be able to refer to the book. So get your hands on the book. You can certainly get that book from former students who will probably still have a copy. And if you live close by to one another, it's possible for you to share those books too. Now, the second part of the required reading for the class has to do with reading children's trade books. These are books published for children, and you can see if you take a look at this list, there are 30 of them, and they range from books that are fairly current, 2011 I think is the closest copyright, all the way back to the 1970s, Bridge to Terabithia, to give you a sense kind of the history and the important books that are here. I just want to run down these 30 books fairly quickly and talk a little bit about why each of them is on the list. This is a very difficult list for me to put together, and it changes from semester to semester. I want to make sure that you have a cross-section of the different types of books so that you've got fantasy and historical fiction, you've got novels in verse or poetry, you've got picture books, chapter books, graphic novels. And so those are the decisions I'm making, as well as are these books that are important in the history of children's literature. In other words, you're going to find a lot of award winners here. So obviously, the list is idiosyncratic. Anybody who makes up a list brings a lot of herself to the list. That's certainly reflected in mine, but here it is anyhow. They're listed in alphabetical order by author. Remember that you have other documents within LiveBinder that give you the order in which you will be reading these books for me this semester. So we'll start with Kathy Appelt. And by the way, you're looking at APA format here, which is the format that you'll use for your assignments, so you have a good understanding here of what a bibliography will look like, at least the bibliographic citation. So we're going to read Kathy Appelt's The Underneath. It's a Newbery Honor book. Kathy is a Texas author, one who is critically acclaimed. Her newest book already has 4-starred reviews this year, so you can look for her, I think, again, to garner some prizes with her writing. She is incredibly talented, and The Underneath is an incredibly complex book for middle grade readers. When we think about children's literature, we have a range of pre-kindergarten through about 5th or 6th grade. There's some overlap there in young adult literature, but that's basically the range. A lot of our schools are pre-K through 5 or pre-K through 6. So I'm trying to give you books that kind of meet that range. So The Underneath is kind of a middle grade novel, books that I might share with 4th, 5th, 6th grade, again, depending on the class and where these kids are developmentally. But I think you'll enjoy it. It's a bit of a challenging read. There's 2 storylines here, and it's really an incredible feat that Kathy maintains throughout this book. Hitler Youth is one of your nonfiction selections by Susan Campbell Bartoletti. It too is an award winner, and she is an award-winning author of nonfiction. If you're looking to increase your nonfiction collection, to recommend nonfiction books, especially nonfiction books for the older range of elementary school, then Susan Campbell Bartoletti is a good place to start. Hitler Youth, of course, is an informational book that is basically a narrative nonfiction, a story of how not only Hitler came to power, but how Hitler managed to control the youth as he was moving forward in his goals to create the perfect society. Next, Nick Bishop's Spiders is also a nonfiction book. I'm not particularly wed to spiders. If you'd like to read one of the other Nick Bishop books, that would be fine too. He's got books on snakes, he's got books on frogs, he's got books on different kinds of animals. What sets these nonfiction books apart, I think, are the incredible photographs that he takes. And in many of the books, he talks about how he has captured these various animals and insects in order to put them in the book. These books have little chunks of text and lots and lots and lots of very colorful illustrations. The next book, How They Croaked the Awful Ends of the Awfully Famous, is also nonfiction. Kind of interesting that you've got several here that just kind of back up to one another alphabetically. How They Croaked are the true stories of how some very famous people died. This is an interesting nonfiction book, got lots of gory details, and I bet you already know the kinds of kids who will gravitate toward this book. Next on your list is Beverly Cleary's Dear Mr. Henshaw. Notice the publication date is 1983, yet this is the first children's book that really dealt with a character whose family was not the nuclear kind of family. In this case, Lee is in a single-parent household headed by his mother. He and his mother and father are divorced, and that is one of the central issues that's dealt with in the book, but there are many others as well. It's also an epistolary novel. It's a novel that's told in letters and diary and journal entries, and while it's been around for 30 years, it really has not lost any of its brilliance. It is a Newbery Award winner. Christopher Paul Curtis's The Watsons Go to Birmingham, 1963, is historical fiction and talks about the Jim Crow laws of the South, especially in Birmingham, Alabama. And of course, the Watsons are going to a place infamous for lots of clashes between African Americans and those who did not particularly want to integrate schools or to do away with the Jim Crow laws. It's a Newbery honor and also a Coretta Scott King honor winner. Carmen Agredidi's Martina the Beautiful Cockroach is a fabulous Cuban folktale. If you can get your hands on the audiobook of this, it's just delightful because it's Carmen Agredidi reading the story and then also doing it in a storyteller version and also then reading it in Espanol. Tommy DePaulo's Legend of the Bluebonnet, again, celebrating an important anniversary, 30 years old this year, and yet it's one that's always going to be important to us in Texas, as it's a wonderful Native American legend about how the Bluebonnets came to be blue and all over the state of Texas. Sharon Draper's Out of My Mind is a fairly new addition to the list. It deals with a girl who is profoundly disabled, and then one day a teacher recognizes that her mind is just as sharp as anybody else's. She just has trouble communicating, gives her a keyboard, discovers that she is an Olympic class speller. And it's just wonderful to see characters with disabilities who are portrayed in a positive manner. Neil Gaiman's The Graveyard Book is a Newbery Award winner. It is his homage to Rudyard Kipling's The Jungle Book, but this time set in a graveyard. Neil Gaiman knows how to tell scary stories really well for young readers. Carmen Lomas Garza's Magic Windows is nonfiction. It's about how to make papel picado. The text is in English and in Spanish as well. Nikki Giovanni's Rosa, beautifully illustrated by Brian Collier, who won a Caldecott Honor and a Coretta Scott King Award for it, tells about Rosa Parks. Shannon Hale's Rapunzel's Revenge is one of the graphic novels on this list. It presents you with a Rapunzel that you've probably never seen before. She has used her long hair now, braided them, cut off the braids, and uses them as lassos, and goes out to seek her revenge against the people who treated her poorly when she was a child. Roby Harris's It's So Amazing is one of the most frequently banned books, not only nationally, but here in Texas. It's a book that talks about changing bodies, sex and sexuality, how babies are made, and anytime you venture into that kind of territory, you can imagine it's going to end up being a controversial book. Jenny and Matt Holmes' beautiful graphic novel, Baby Mouse, is now, I think, 14 or 15 different books. You may read any in the series. You don't have to read the first one in order for the rest of them to make sense. You've got Baby Mouse Beach Babe, you've got Baby Mouse Rock Star, Baby Mouse Extreme. Baby Mouse is kind of a logical step up from kids who loved Ian Falconer's Olivia. It's done in black and white with touches of pink, lots of humor, great graphic novel for young readers. I suspect that most of you know the next book on the list, The Diary of a Wimpy Kid. It too has several books in the series, and you are welcome to read any of them that you wish, except the novelization from the movie, because, quite frankly, that's not really a book. It's just a novelization made from the screenplay. Diary of a Wimpy Kid is just one of those books that kids gravitate toward because it speaks about their own lives. The 2013 Caldecott winner was John Klassen for This Is Not My Hat, and I've decided that it's a book that needs to go on the list immediately because what Klassen is able to do with minimal text and huge double-page spreads of illustrations is just remarkable. Krzyzewska's Lunch Lady is the second of the graphic novels that I've included on this list, and like Baby Mouse, it's for a younger audience. Lunch Lady is kind of a 007 figure, except she works in the lunchroom. She has a sidekick named Betty who invents lots of neat little gadgets for her as she solves various crimes. This book is done mostly in black and white and yellow. Skullduggery Pleasant by Derek Landy is a fabulous book, part of a series. This is the first book, and if you've already read the first one, you can certainly go along and read one of the other titles that's about a detective who is basically a skeleton. Very dark humor, lots and lots and lots of fun. Sorry, my screen just kind of went into sleep mode there. I'll try to keep that from happening again, but this is Windows 8. It has its own mind. So Skullduggery Pleasant, a bit longer novel than some of the others that we've talked about already, but one that I think you'll enjoy reading, and also a fabulous audio if you can get your hands on it. Cynthia Lord's Rules is a Newbery winner about a boy who is autistic, but mostly the book centers on his sister, who always feels kind of shunted off to one side because she lives in a family with a special needs child. So it looks actually at lots of issues that face families who have children who have special needs. Kadir Nelson's We Are the Ship is an incredibly beautifully illustrated book. It's a Caldecott honor as well, and it talks about the Negro baseball leagues. Bridge to Terabithia by Catherine Patterson. I hope that this is a reread for everybody. I hope that at some point when you were a child, you had the opportunity to read this incredible book by Catherine Patterson. If not, I'm just going to tell you to prepare yourself, have hankies nearby, Kleenex tucked in the book, however you prepare yourself for a book like Bridge to Terabithia. Laura Amy Schlitz has a Newbery Award winner in Good Masters, Sweet Ladies. This book is ideal for readers' theater. It's a novel in verse about the various members of a medieval village. And as you might guess, it's perfect for tying into social studies or history classes. It's also great for looking at novels in verse. Brian Selznick's The Invention of Hugo Cabret is the first, and I would suspect only, Caldecott winner ever to be longer than 32 pages. If you've not seen the book, it is about 632 pages long, but what happens within the book is that there are chapters of nothing but illustrations that tell the story and move the plot forward. Again, I hope this is a reread for most of you, but if not, we're making sure that you get to this book in this class. The king of all children's books is Maurice Sendak's Where the Wild Things Are. We lost Maurice Sendak this year, and it was a huge loss in children's literature because he really did change the face with what he was doing. Notice that this book is 50 years old. I suspect that the person teaching children's literature 50 years from now will also be using this book. It just does everything so right. You'll hear a little bit more about Where the Wild Things Are in a subsequent screencast. We're looking at Marilyn Singer's Mirror, Mirror, which is a picture book that includes reverso poems about fairy tale characters. So you have two poems on the page. One you read from top to bottom, and then when you look next to it, there is the same set of words, but now flipped, so that the bottom line becomes the top, and you read it from again, start to finish, you get different meaning. It's really incredible wordsmithing that's taking place here. Lane Smith's It's a Book is metafiction, and hopefully we'll get a chance to talk about metafiction at some point in the semester. If not, it certainly is something that you should go out and look a little bit about yourself on your own. Metafiction is basically fiction about fiction. So It's a Book knows it's a book, and basically the characters within the book talk about what it is that makes a book. If you want to have some fun, go out and go to Google or Bing or one of your search engines and type in It's a Book book trailer, and you'll see an absolutely hysterical trailer for this book. Melissa Sweet's Balloons Over Broadway, The True Story of the Puppeteer of Macy's Parade, is the last of our nonfiction books in this class. It is, as the subtitle tells you, how Macy's Parade evolved from puppets that were held up in the air to the incredible balloons we see now on Thanksgiving. This is the story of the man who brought these things to life. The Three Little Pigs by David Wiesner, Caldecott winner, just an incredible version of The Three Little Pigs, one that is really for older readers who know the story of The Three Little Pigs already, because Wiesner's going to turn it upside down and on its ear. And last, but certainly not least, is Mo Willems' A Big Man Took My Ball. This is part of the Elephant and Piggy books, and you could read any of the Elephant and Piggy books. They're wonderful early chapter books for beginner readers, very much in the same kind of realm as the Dr. Seuss Cat in the Hat kinds of books. So I encourage you, if you can't find A Big Man Took My Ball, which is a very current book, you could go back and look at some of the Elephant and Piggy books, including I Broke My Trunk and Elephant and Piggy Are Friends. There are several of them from which to choose. So those are the books that you're reading for this particular course, and this is probably the most important part of the syllabus right here. I'll be back with another screencast shortly, and we'll be looking in depth at your assignments, things like that. The only other thing I think worthy of mentioning here in the syllabus, watch as I scroll through pretty quickly, certainly everything that's in here is worth your looking at, because it tells you how this class is kind of put together. But I think probably what you need to look at are the 3 requirements for the course, each worth 100 points, so each weighted the same, and then how that all measures out at the end, which is how do you get the A that I know everybody out there wants in the class. That's a little further down. Once you get past all the information that I have to put in here, here we go. There are 300 points possible for the class. In order to get an A, you'll get 270 or 90% of those points. The B range is 240 through 269. The C range would be 210 to 239. Anything below that will be an F. If you miss a few points for any of the assignments, I would not panic. You can miss 10 points for each of the 3 assignments or 30 points on one assignment and still get your A. After that, you will earn whatever it is that the total of your points comes up to. I don't, at the end of the semester, particularly care to hear I'm only 1 point from an A, because in truth, you're 31 points from an A. You've had 30 points to play with, and even if it's 269, you will be receiving a B for the class. I know that these are the hard things that you have to tell people at the very beginning of the semester, but I want you to be very clear about how the grades are done. So we'll look at these assignments more in depth in the next screencast. Welcome back to class. Hope this helps you out a little bit in terms of understanding why you're reading the books you are, and I will talk to you soon. Thanks.